debunking the prana is different from Kundalini myth. So I've been hearing this from so-called learned sources, and they very clearly outlined that prana is very different from Kundalini, and people are under some misconception in mixing the two, and Kundalini is a total different animal compared to what prana is. So I want to debunk that myth and give an explanation, and also probably give the reasons why they incorrectly think that way, and give my uh, in-depth or experience-backed answer in this video. So I would like to ask you a great favor. If you like the contents of my video, please don't forget to also press like and subscribe if you haven't already. This will greatly help my channel to be able to reach out to more people. And if you could just drop a comment, I would greatly appreciate it, and share it with your favorite social media. That would be a super great help. For those of you who don't know me, I am Osman. I am a hashtag the blind Muslim yogi, and I am a bioenergy healer on a master level with telepathic healing capabilities, specializing in critical care recovery and terminal illnesses, amongst a host of other physiological, psychological, and even spiritual ailments. I'm also an advanced level yoga and meditation teacher, having been practicing this art form for almost 50 years and teaching now for 46 years. And in that period, I've studied under various masters from different schools of thought, different cultures across the globe, from the Far East, the Middle East, the West, and including the scientific communities. I've developed my own unique protocols, basically making them faster, easier, quicker, adapted for the 21st century, more time efficient, and results oriented. To that end, I now have students in over 100 countries, and my favorite protocol is the 5-minute yoga and meditation program, which you can download for free by visiting my website, yogawellness786.com. Though important disclaimer, my therapies are all natural based and not a replacement for medical treatment. So coming back to this misconception, say, prana, we get people, they do certain, yogic exercises, and they start developing the prana and mistaking it for kundalini, and that kundalini is a very different animal. It is so intense and so severe that it's definitely a massive mistake. And the two people that are that have been specifically saying this is someone who studied kundalini yoga very deeply nearly all his life, from his youth to his later life, edited many books and recordings of Gopi Krishna, a person by the name of I think it's Michael Greger, right, or Michael Bradford, right, and he's not only studied the work on Kundalini, but he never had a Kundalini awakening, firstly, and his yoga, he claims to be more, uh, karma yoga, and but he studied Vedanta for 30 years, and he says, according to his studies in Vedanta, and from what Gopi Krishna says, probably, I mean, that's where he's getting his information from. He didn't specifically say that conclusion is from. He said there is prana shakti and Kundalini Shakti, and Prana Shakti is maintenance, and Kundalini Shakti is creation, creative force. So then there's someone else by the name of Ego. He's got his own YouTube channel, and he specializes in Tantra. I think he's a Russian origins person, Tantra and Kundalini yoga and yoga. And he says he's experienced Kundalini awakening, and that it is very massive, and it's definitely nothing to do with prana. And anything else where there's mild and the people doing energy healing and so forth, this is just from prana tattva, and it's not kundalini tattva, right? So I completely disagree with him. Firstly, I've had multiple kundalini awakenings from my age of 19. I'm now 57 years old. So about 38 years ago, I had my first, and samadhi experiences, right? Multiple samadhi experiences. So I haven't been established permanently in it because I wasn't focusing on it, and it wasn't something I wasn't looking for a Kundalini awakening or so forth. It was just that I was into yoga from childhood, and I was in it for more for health purposes, right? Not to go into, and I was living a normal life, a student life. I didn't want a monastic life. I didn't want to go live in ashrams and so forth. And I was total opposite of monastic. I was someone who loved a party life and um, a very healthy student life, very promiscuous, and having enjoying healthy relationships with the opposite sex, and multiple relationships, not hurting people or anything, like having fun, basically, mutual agreement, in student years. And later, when I decided, because I decided before I decided to get married, I wanted to exhaust myself of experimenting with all types of relationships, and I don't want to be seeking elsewhere after marriage. That I'm And also to know, how do you be sure that the person you're marrying is the person? You can even meet that person first time, but you're not sure, right? Until you've got some experience in the field of every type. That's how you know. And when I eventually said, so that was like my background, right? But uh, it was something that was interesting, and I evolved in it. And of course, it's something that was a passion of mine, out of curiosity, and it was something, a backdrop in my life, and it had a great influence, in my life. And I'm of course teaching yoga, and mainly it was hatha yoga initially, and later on in my 30s I focused on meditation, and in my, I think, late 40s, I focused on advanced pranayama techniques, right? Of course, we were practicing yoga and meditation from childhood, but not on an advanced level. Advanced dedicated meditation came in my 30s, and advanced dedicated pranayama practice came in my late 40s. And thereafter, in my 50s or early 50s, I started the kriya practice. And mantra came by accident. I just was curious about it, and that's how I had my first samadhi experience at the age of 19. Just by luck, I tried something, and boom, it floored me. But so let me explain what these people said, that prana and kundalini is very different. And from my experience, I know what a kundalini awakening is. I had multiples of it. It floors you. It can drop you unconscious. And but I didn't have a negative awakening, in the sense that I did not get ill. I did not have body pains and so forth. Probably because I'm practicing hatha yoga and meditation, pranayama, mildly, and many, like the mudras and bandhas, and I learned everything, to very small degrees, but mainly focus on hatha yoga from childhood, and being consistent in it, from childhood, and teaching, from my age of around 12, right? That I'm teaching and practicing it, formally studying the 30 different aspects of yoga, um, from the age of 10, and practicing it informally from the age of 8. I had a natural gift for healing, as well. From the age of 8, I was, healing people, and so forth. Not as a full-time healer. Just like, I wasn't. I didn't even think that I had a special talent or anything. But because I was too young to think about all that. Just that we were involved, in praying for sick people and so forth, and you know, um, and I was involved in it, and I was asked to do it, and I didn't think much of it because I just thought it was something normal. Um, And it went that way, and no one came specifically, and I never say declare to everyone I'm a healer, and went to school, I heal this person. I never think twice about such things. So coming back to why I believe this misconception that prana is separate from kundalini. Firstly, you cannot awaken kundalini. Kundalini is not dead in everyone, right? Because without kundalini you can't be alive. How did the fetus, let's go with common cause, right? Common cause is if we ask any person that is knowledgeable in yoga and vedanta, how does the fetus miraculously develop into a child in the womb of a mother and go from just 2 cells into 2 trillion cells, or several trillion, 1 or 2 trillion cells, right, before it's a baby, right? And they say that miraculous process cannot just be attributed to the genetics. It is definitely, according to yogic sciences, the kundalini shakti. Even this guy Michael Bradford, right? He himself says no, it's a kundalini that creates the child in the womb of the mother, right? So this is common cause of everyone. It is a kundalini. So what happened to the kundalini? Died, disappeared, went somewhere? No, it's still in the body, right? It never go anywhere. What it did was it used its power, and if it was in full power mode, was it in full power mode? No. If it was in full power mode, the mother will get electrocuted, because all those who've experienced full kundalini awakening, they know the amount of electrical charge in that body. It vibrates. You touch anyone, you will electrocute that person unconscious. You'll knock the person unconscious, right? Even yourself get knocked unconscious. I got knocked unconscious multiple times and woke up, right? And in a swoon, and I couldn't even speak for sometimes up to 1 hour, right? And there were some people that I knew couldn't speak for up to 40 days after having that experience, right? And it is really a supercharged experience. So in the womb, it was not fully, but it was more active, and it went into, did it go dormant, or did it start to recede, or continued as it was in its state in the womb, and as the child is growing, started to become more and more dormant as the child started to get more and more conditioned, you know so some people, there are many differences of opinion regarding that. They say the children are very aware. They're able to see angels, and they're able to see the unseen world and so forth, because they're still innocent, and then they become conditioned and they can't see. So one of the markers of the signs of the awakening, not the fully awakening, is getting clairvoyance, clairaudience. It doesn't necessarily have to be fully awakened, not on the full electrical mode. So you can see visions and so forth, and have psychic powers, clairsentience, and so forth. So is it possible that the child's kundalini was a bit more active, that it could see at that time? Sometimes you see the child looking at things and there's nothing there. His eyes is moving and it's seeing something, you know that is not visible to us, right? So means it was probably still more in the active phase, and not suddenly slap bang on birth went dormant, or I wouldn't say dormant, went into low power mode, decreased its power incrementally as the child was developing, month by month, year by year, decreasing, and went down to maybe a very low power mode, just enough to keep all the life force activities alive. Then you get emergency, that where a mother can lift a 2-ton vehicle to save a baby's life, right? A skinny, scrawny, short, little, petite mother can lift a 2-ton vehicle, or a person don't know how he jumped a fence. They say no, it's pure adrenaline. So in emergency, this what is this? This is the Kundalini can become a little bit more active, and this thing. So they say this is not Kundalini. This is just Prana Shakti, right? That's what they say. Okay, let's say for argument's sake, right? Maybe they are true, unlikely though. So let me give you empirical evidence from my own personal example. I always like to give my personal example, right? So when I started to do the Kriya practice, so we do a special practice. We push our breath to raise the uh, dormant energy that's at the base of the spine or in the root chakra, right? We push hard to awaken it. The first time I awakened it, I dropped because the power was so much. I fell over, right? And then my body got used to it, to withstanding it. It's not in the full power as when I went unconscious and I couldn't speak, not the full power of the but high enough for my body that just more than what it could withstand. And I learned to control, because if I push too hard, it makes it too heavy. If I just push a little lightly, it comes up more. So it's like a spring. You touch it lightly, it springs. When you push the spring right down, it's going to pop high. So I learned to control the push, and eventually we got used to it, and even the energy starts to come in a controlled manner. So it start to when we push it in Kriya. So this has started when I was around 50 years old, right? I push it to let it rise up my spine, rise up through the Sushamna Nadi, the center core, direct it up the center, and let it fill my head. Right? This is how we were taught to do it. And then when we breathe out, it goes back down. Then we breathe in and we push hard and release, pop, it pops up. And then when we breathe out, it goes back down. So this is the Kriya practice. So we learned how to raise it and fall it just slightly higher than what the body could withstand, which they call the prana shakti. Okay, right? It's a very low compared to the full level of what they experience the kundalini on, and this level it is far far lower, right? But still more than what the body can withstand. So I noticed that my body starts to get used to that level of energy, and it goes the next increment up, and that normally took every 2 weeks. And every 2 weeks, like clockwork, it'll go up to the next increment, the next increment, next increment. And then I said, hey, I want to become grandmaster. So when I awakened that energy, I reached master level because I could cure terminal illnesses, because I could direct that energy to go. With my thought, I can telepathically direct it. Wherever I tell it to go, tell it to go to George in Washington, for example. Right? I didn't mean it that way, right? George Washington. Okay, George in Moscow, right? So I tell there's a George in Moscow who's got severe, migraines, to go and repair his migraine headache, and and George tells me, "Yeah, you can feel the energy, you can feel this calming effect, and the migraine goes away, right? While I'm doing it, right? So then I started to raise the energy and never stopped the practicing of the Kriya on a daily basis. Until now, it's like 7 years later, until about 3 weeks ago or something, it was still raising one increment every 2 weeks. I reached like level 704, 5, 700 and something, right? I'm not sure, right? So today I reached increment number 723. So it's like about 3 weeks later, because I started a certain technique, right? And when I started that technique to boost it's designed to boost the Kundalini awakening, and it start to go an increment on a daily basis, right? So it started to go higher and higher daily. So do you know the first increment that I experienced was so high it dropped me. Now it's 723 levels above that level. How high is that? It's like I don't know what happened with my mind, right? But it's been growing, and they call this prana. No, this is the Kundalini energy that we learn to develop in increments. And then he mentioned that when the Kundalini, you can automatically go into Padmasana. So I couldn't even sit like this cross-legged, right? So it took me 2 years before I could sit cross-legged, and it started to get looser. And as the Kundalini is rising, all the Hatha Yoga posture starts to become easier. And today I just easily got into Padmasana, and in Padmasana, I was able to, when the energy is full, you don't feel any pain. In the leg, the Padmasana, Padmasana is just you're sitting and just going there. See, no, not so hard. I'm sitting. I couldn't do this few days ago, right? So of course, it he says, ego says he just pushed his leg. Yes, I understand that, right? Because it becomes like absolutely loose, like rubber. So it's becoming looser and looser, and that level is mind-blowingly high, 723 levels above. And I know I'm like so close to the full level. I've experienced the full level, and I know what's happening. It's gradually coming closer and closer to this level now. It's coming closer. So from that level to it's not prana tattva. It is the same. Even you're alive. That is there's no difference between prana and kundalini. They're just calling it a different name when it's on full power, when it's 100%. No, that 100. If they feeling that is 100, that is not 100%. It is only what your individual body can withstand, and they feel it's so great on that level. No, if it comes in a full level, it's the level of the entire universe. You'll go to smithereens. So it is an intelligent energy. So it comes in a full force to show you what it is, or when you're ready for it, or sometimes you prematurely, bring it, and if you haven't done preparation or cleansing of the nadis and so forth, it can automatically start blasting things and cause, you know, very fast release, faster than what you could handle, and psychological problems and insanity and all that, right? Because of unpreparedness, because you want to do things prematurely, or it is due to certain influences that it got activated, or just you haven't spend time developing it, and then eventually it's not going to wait for you, to for it to be ready. It's mature to be released for some reason or another, and then it releases, right? So we don't know what each individual's reasons why, it happens involuntarily. But to say that prana tattva and kundalini tattva is different is absolutely wrong, right? These people don't know what they are talking about. I know what I'm talking about, right? Because I'm practicing it. I've experienced it, and I'm experienced the gradation. Today, I've reached after since 2020. I've been, raising this thing, and I know what's the full level, and I want to do it in its stages, right? So it's now reached level 720. I didn't know it's so many levels, right? I thought it was only about 10 or 12 levels, but today I reached level 723, right? I was on 722 for 2 days, and then usually it's one day, for each other level after that, up to around 704. And before that, it was every 2 weeks. It was raising, right? And the signs of the full Kundalini, that it can handle. So, what's really, I know what's happening with my body. I'm developing my energy body, right? So my energy body is developing higher and higher and higher, that I can withstand higher and higher. What used to take me about 4.5 5 hours to heal 3 years ago, about a month ago took me 4 minutes to heal. The same thing, right? Because the level is so much higher, my energy, right? So don't say prana is different, kundalini is different. People, I don't like to use a bad term, but they don't know their elbow from, the posterior is a pleasant way to say it, and I have to say it that way. I don't like people making broad statements, and people are following them. They're using them as authority figure. They are writing books, for crying out loud. You know, don't go writing books as you're an idiot, right? I'm sorry to say that, but you got no this thing, no right to go on this thing. I don't care what you are, quoting. So don't mislead people. You don't have knowledge. Don't talk about it. Don't come because you had some Kundalini experience and you think you're an expert. No, go learn your facts before you start teaching these things. Don't mislead people. We are here to make life easy, simple, and this thing not a complicated thing. I try to make things very simple. All the information is in my videos. You don't even have to engage my services, and they make it that you have to follow them or this and that. I try to make it super easy for people, right? To follow, and try to make people independent. It's not uncommon for my students to have an out of body experience, not all the cases, but not uncommon for them to have an out of body experience within 1 to 2 days, right? It's not uncommon for me to teach people, some methodologies, and they are on master level, able to save people's lives with energy healing, right? Really save their life, unbelievable, within 3 to 6 months from zero, no knowledge of what is yoga and so forth. These are people from Europe, and people from Australia, people from Western countries, Caucasian nationality, not even coming from the Asian subcontinent and so forth. And I'm able to teach them. Things like there's no massive long 18-month course and secret course that they have to pay thousands of dollars and things like that. Very easy methods, simple methods, that they followed. They only, I think, spent a day, a couple of hours, 2, 3 hours with me, and they just practice a bit. And then I said, now you're ready, you can heal. If you can't heal, I can step in, right? And they're able to heal. So be careful of people trying to mislead you on the internet, and try to get alternative opinions all the time, in this field. And it's sad that people are taking authoritative roles and misleading people, unfortunately. So I hope that information helps you, and take care of yourself always.